Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing, host of the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. Today, I get to introduce you to a wonderful, wonderful human being. Heidi Fischbach is one of my friends that I've found online, and it's amazing when you're being more true to yourself, you start resonating with other people who are true to themselves, and you just easily become friends. So I'm sure anybody who's listening to me today, because you are drawn to finding your voice and being more empowered to be true to yourself, you'll get a lot from Heidi today. Hi, Heidi.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah,
Good to
it's all.
hear.
I feel like we're like two little girls in a playground, a sandbox right now.
Right, right. We just jumped right in, like barely
Yeah,
2 sentences before. So hi, Doreen.
yeah. Well, there is a bio that you sent, so I do want to read that so that people can get a sense of what you do, who you are. Heidi Fischbach is a nervous system coach and writer who helps people reset after high control environments, whether that's a fundamentalist religion, a rigid family system, or chronic survival mode. And with training in focusing, polyvagal theory, and body-based trauma healing, she helps clients feel safe, connected, and at home in their bodies. And she's currently finishing her memoir that's tentatively titled Missionary Kid: How My Body Saved My Mind from High Control Christianity, and offers a program called, and you offer a program called the Nervous System Jumpstart. There we go. That's a little info. And so I don't know where I might want to start. I know that usually in the podcast it is always like, well, where you were born and how that affected you finding your voice. But I'm going to do it just a teeny bit different. I just feel a sense of just so glad and happy to be with you today. I'm going to just start with right now.
Mm,
Right now, you have this reset program that
mhm.
you offer. And usually I get to that at the end. For some reason, I
Mhm.
just want to start with it today.
Hey.
Tell us about what that is, because I think that the people that come to my programs are suffering from trauma in some way, and their nervous system is, we can call it out of whack,
Yeah,
haywire. Uh,
love the way to say it. Yep.
yeah, so let's start just by captivating our listeners first by what you do, and then we'll go back into your story. How's that?
Sure. Yeah, and they're so related. It's not a mistake that I do this work. Um, so my program, the Nervous System Jumpstart or Reset program, is a way to fundamentally reset old fear-based patterns that a lot of times maybe were put in place when we were kids, when we didn't have a lot of resources, when we were very dependent on others. And to reset those patterns so that we're not stuck in a fear-based way of interpreting and seeing the world and ourselves, but so that we can be open and engaged and connected. So when our nervous system is able to feel safe, then we can enjoy our lives, then we can feel 100% ourselves, and we can have a voice, you know? So for me, for example, not feeling authentic and feeling like I had to be quiet came with this sort of underlying sense that I wasn't safe unless I was a certain way, unless I said certain things or behaved in a certain way. So once that sort of assumption of safety can be different, so many things are possible.
Uh-huh. Yeah, thank you so much for that general insight around not only just what you do, but there was something that you said that I think is important that people get. You didn't say yourself, you said it your nervous system. Like we are, it's not like I'm nervous, my nervous system is nervous or something. There was some kind of separation that made it feel like there's a me that can learn how to regulate something called my nervous system. Is that?
Oh, I love that. I love that. And part of what just constantly excites me about this lens and this kind of perspective to working with someone is that it destigmatizes and it sort of separates out what we think is us. Oh, I'm just shy, or I'm
Yeah.
just, all those things. And when we start realizing, oh, this is what a nervous system does when a creature, we are creatures, we are mammals, feels threatened. You know, this
Yeah.
is what happens. We either like get activated and anxious, or we might even, if we feel really threatened, shut down and withdraw and get quiet. So having it, having starting to be really aware of what our nervous system is doing gives us so much rich information about ourselves, about things that aren't really us, that maybe were just survival strategies that we got used to.
Mhm.
And as we feel safer and safer, those can drop away. It really sometimes does feel like that happens for my clients. And what can emerge is much more like who you actually are when you're not like having to feel defensive and reactive or anxious all the time.
Hmm. What I got was that you have to have some kind of level of awareness to be able to investigate, because you said learn. It seems like we have to learn about our nervous system, not only what might have happened to make it that way. Um, I just love the way that you're making it so normal that our nervous system is meant to do what it does, and maybe how it got stuck doing that thing.
Yes, yes. And can I add something to how you reflected that? Is
Yes.
it okay? So the other thing I love about this way of transformation is that we don't have to go back and figure out why exactly we're the way we are, and we don't have to relive trauma. Trauma is there, and our body has all the information and what it's doing right now and how we're reacting, that it touches enough on back then, for us to be able to be with it in a way that isn't going to overwhelm us. We can be with it at just the right increment now, so that even what happened back then can change in
Yes.
effect. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
that's fabulous, because it's like, just I love the way you just went like this with your fingers. People who are just listening, it was like increment, and it's
Yeah.
not like you go back and re-experience and have because that's not the point, is to re-experience, but there is a point of touching it,
Yeah.
because the nervous system has to go. That's what I'm thinking. The nervous system has to go, ooh, ooh, ooh. So you have to somehow touch it, right? And that's what
Right.
yeah, I like the increments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's some kind of self-awareness that something happened in a way that did do what you're suffering from now, or what you're stuck in now. So there's the acknowledgement. So now I think it's time to go back into your life, because
Oh,
you learned something. You learned something about how a nervous system gets stuck, blocked, traumatized. and how not only how that happened, but you've designed, developed, gone through a process and discovered a way that can help others move gently away and out of that experience of
Yeah.
tension, nervousness.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's open up the chapter and say, Heidi, and you're going to write a book about it.
Yeah, I am. Actually, it's been written, so
Oh,
looking for an agent.
well, maybe somebody on our podcast will hear because I said the title. So,
Yeah.
okay, well, go ahead. Yeah, yeah, you were born in a very challenging life.
Yeah,
Um,
I was born, and the way I think of it is like I learned the words eternity and hell right alongside the days of the week and the word for milk. Like it was just part of the everyday life, and not just in sort of beliefs that my family had, but actually why they were doing the work they were doing was like just a deep, deep commitment um, to having other people believe the way they did in order for them to be saved in the afterlife. So, without going there too deeply, but to mention the effect
mhm.
or what that meant for me growing up was that there was like a constant sense of hypervigilance. There was a lot of awareness, but it was not friendly. It
Ah,
was like, what did I do wrong? What did I think wrong? What did I say wrong? Because any of those things could, wind up a girl in hell. So there was a constant also like, am I saved? And what can undo that salvation? And the stakes were just so high. Like, and when I look at it from a nervous system perspective and I see I did not feel safe, not because, bombs were going off around me, but like I didn't feel safe because I was constantly on edge and worried about going to hell.
mm,
And it's really looking at it from a nervous system perspective takes a lot of like even the blame, although I do hold sometimes high control religions responsible, but it brings it back to such a basic level. Like no wonder I was anxious all the time. No wonder at a certain point in missionaries then sent their kids away to boarding schools. Mine was 3,000 miles from home, and the loss, the uprooting from like family and friends within that context of being hypervigilant and anxious all the time was a very, very bad combination for me. And I developed an eating disorder, and I fantasized about death as escape. And yeah, it was sort of just this horrible combination of things. And the way that I have come out of it is in cultivating like friendliness for myself. This is the most basic way of saying it because there was a lot of help and a lot of awesome mentors along the way. But cultivating a friendliness and a curiosity about myself and toward myself, and a respect in my own body and the wisdom of my body, which I also then started learning how to be able to hear.
mm,
So, and the cultivating of those things happened before I felt friendly toward myself. And
mhm,
that's an important distinction because, I think a lot of people feel very critical and judgmental of themselves. And there's things we can do in order for that to change,
mhm.
that then change how we feel about ourselves.
Yeah, well, the awareness that you're talking about, the learning, the curiosity of who we are, and how we got to be that way, all of that is learning.
Yeah.
And I think partly what our work is about and helps people learn more about what's possible for them. Uh, and what you said about the learning, though, is that it may not, the approach you take to learning about yourself is important. And first you have to say, okay, I need to learn about myself, but you've got to do it from, I love that word, friendly way, just being curious. And I guess we call it putting on the shelf the critic, or, you know, I want to talk more about that.
Mm,
I want to talk more about what I'm just getting to around the how to be with yourself as you are self-discovering.
yeah.
But I'm going to take a quick break and be right back. And we're going to go deeper, diving into what this process of learning about yourself and resetting your nervous system in just a moment. Be right back.
If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com.
Hi, I'm back. This is Dr. Doreen Downing with my friend Heidi Fischbach, and we are talking about nervous system resetting and what that takes. Heidi has, in the first portion of our episode today, go back and listen to the fact that she grew up in what you call over-controlled Christianity. Is
I
that
think
the
so,
phrase?
Christianity.
High, not over, high. Either way, it's
Yeah.
controlled. You grow up in a system that's got rules and regulations, and you can only get to a certain great place, which is probably saved in heaven, if you do certain things. So that's the kind of background that Holly's been talking about that disrupted her natural learning of how to be in this world with ease. So now let's move into the ease of living and how do we help people do that? And you're talking about first is curiosity and being friendly.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it okay if I tell you a little story of a client who's given me permission to
Yeah.
tell her story? It just comes to mind because and the name she chose for herself is Carly. And Carly had a friend that did my reset program and raved about it. But Carly was super skeptical and she said, I don't think this is going to work for me. Honestly, it sounds a little like snake oil and like I don't think it's going to work, but I really have seen what it's done for my friend. And so I said, you do not have to believe that this is going to work for you.
Ah,
So many times we hear just believe in yourself.
uh-huh.
Just believe, you know? And maybe it's from growing up with such fundamental rules about what I should and shouldn't believe and being told
Yeah.
what was true and what wasn't.
Uh,
Um, and just knowing the depths of, kind of despair that I've been in when didn't have an ounce of belief in myself back in my 20s, that belief is not required. And that even friendliness with yourself isn't required when you start this. What is, I would say, I wouldn't word it maybe as required, is just enough curiosity and willingness
ah,
to like commit to yourself and your care,
oh,
right?
yeah.
Because then as if you take that step of like commitment to, yeah, I'm going to get support around this, or I'm going to do this a different way. um, what happens is so much more valuable, like in a like um, observable change kind of way than belief. And it's experience. You start experiencing yourself differently.
Oh,
You start being in situations that used to like just trigger an automatic kind of stress-based response, and you're different. And that builds on itself. And we're back to like those little increments. That really starts having momentum and traction, and people transform like how they can show up in the world and how they even feel about themselves, which, just bringing in the critic thing is just so beautiful to watch. Like when people start like we call it finding your no wonder, like when we are used to just being hard on ourselves. One of my teachers, Ann Weiser Cornell, used to say this all the time, like you're what's no wonder, no wonder. And I kind of like I like use it as like let's find our no wonders. Like no wonder
Oh,
I'm so exhausted. Instead of
oh,
like, what's
beautiful.
wrong with me? Why am I so exhausted? Like,
Mhm.
no wonder you're so exhausted. Like, and then just like having specific ways to start cultivating friendliness, and that combined with, body-based intervention and different things just results in you experiencing yourself differently. And then your life, as you do that, changing.
Yes. Well, I get what I like about as I'm listening to you that it is a process. It's not just we're going to go and get to a new state of being and we're going to take this step, this step, this step, and this step. What we're going to do is to start with this intention to learn something more about ourselves. And yeah, I really saw that as a way to learn about yourself so that you can come to I love that you just said transformation, that people do transform. So Carly, the
Mhm.
client you
Oh,
talked about, what about
yeah,
it
thank
was
you.
give
I
us
totally lost the track of that. Thank you, Doreen. So yeah, she jumped in. She like, yeah, she was like, okay, I'm all in. I'm 100% skeptical and I'm all in. And she about 4 weeks into her Jumpstart program one of the things, sorry, my story is all over the place. One of the reasons she said she wanted to do it is that her partner had said to her, you are always at an 11 of reactivity. Like I can't, no matter what I talk to you about, you are defensive and reactive. And and she said, he's right. Like I can't come down from that. Like I'm so reactive and defensive. And so about 4 weeks in, starting at that 11, 4 or 5 weeks in, she was like, I'm at about a 7, like pretty consistently. And then like 8 weeks, she was like, I'm at a 3.
Oh,
And she said, I don't know if it's a fluke, but I'm at a 3. And then the next week, she's like, it's pretty steady. I mean, it's still like, I might lose it about something, but I come back to that 3. And then I just loved it. She finished her 4 month Jumpstart program. And in the next class I was teaching, I wanted to give the example of her transformation. So I called her actually, and she picked up. I called her, I make the like
yeah.
old-fashioned way of sign of like the two fingers. Um, she picked up and she's like, Heidi. And I said, hey, how are you doing? She says, it's holding strong. This calm and this way to respond and is holding strong. And she said, today we have like a plumbing emergency in the house. I'm not getting any of the work done that I would usually. Um, and it's okay. I'm okay.
Mm.
And so that like it wasn't just a little mindset shift that she had one day. This was fundamental change in how her organism was able to be with the day-to-day life kind of things. So she, at the end, she said, I'm like 180 degrees different in mood and in outlook from when we started.
Oh, that's
And yeah,
uh-huh.
that was Carly.
Right. And it's clearly not a switch. It takes weeks is what you're talking about. And that there's what you teach helps people transform, change. Let's look at how then this comes back to voice.
Yeah.
And because you did say something about coming into the truth of who you are and not being the reactive you, but the one who is able to be at ease with whatever comes at you and be able to self-regulate. And how does this relate to having a voice and finding your voice?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So it's not that I don't, oh, I'm thinking very personally right now. So it's not that I'm never triggered. And it's not that I don't sometimes feel reactive, but much more about being able to notice when that's happening and to be able to return to regulation more quickly and more easily.
Uh-huh.
And one of the biggest ways for me that is showing up is in this. I said I was writing a book, that I've written a book, and that I'm hoping to publish it. And this I've been working on this book for years.
Uh-huh.
And there is something, and I think part of why it's taken me years is that it has a lot to do with being visible exactly as I am and showing things that maybe in the past I would have felt I was taking very personally my own history, like there was something wrong with me, rather than no wonder that young girl reacted in this way and did this, said this, right? So there's been like in this process, this change in friendliness toward myself that then allows me to have a much more authentic and true voice because I don't need to hide as a way to protect.
Mm.
And it doesn't, I can still be discerning about what I'm sharing and how I'm sharing it. But as my system has changed, I have much more friendliness toward ways in which I've been in the past and things that have been difficult, or maybe even things this is the ongoing work, things that are still difficult for me.
The
Does that
ongoing.
make sense?
Yes, yes. I think how it relates to finding your voice, I think is first, it's the increasing the awareness of the ways in which the pattern is there, whatever that happens to be. And then learning how to access a quieter, stronger place within, which has to do with nervous system, I think.
Mhm.
And then it's the knowing how to return. You use the word return,
Mhm.
right? Being able to regulate, come back to a calmer state of being. And that to me feels like that that helps us tap into truth easier. So that's where I'm just looking at how your work and my work comes together around finding your voice means you have to find yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the self has finally a voice because it's the true self. It's not the one who's reactive or the one who was developed to protect yourself or
Right. Or the one that was trying to please everyone else to keep
yes.
herself safe and keep everyone happy. So saying things that she thought people wanted to hear. Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh,
Absolutely.
that's a big one. Yes, and learning to say, no wonder I learned to, be this kind of person. No wonder I learned that I need to protect myself. No wonder I learned that it's better to what another kind of P word that I have. I have the protector, the pleaser, the performer. There's some
Yeah.
people who, hide behind performance. So there's all this way of coming out of hiding. And I think that the nervous system is one clue. If you've got a problem with that, then that's one clue that there's something more for you, right?
Yep, absolutely. And just one little thing that stood out to me in what you were saying is that like a regulated healthy nervous system isn't always calm. Like part of what has changed for me actually is also more energy
Hmm.
to do things and to have a voice, right? It takes some energy to have a voice. And when we're shut down and like withdrawn and afraid, there's kind of a fro excuse me, a frozen energy too. There can be. So sometimes it is calmer. Yeah, I love feeling calmer. But sometimes there's also just more energy and
Uh-huh.
playful and curious.
But but the energy is cleaner, is what
Yes,
I'm getting.
yes, yes, exactly. Yes.
Uh-huh. Brighter and more
Yeah.
effervescent and I don't know, just good words, I guess, as opposed to
Yeah.
Yes, there's a force inside of all of us. And I think what you just said about the shutting down or the ways in which we pull back and don't express
Right.
that that's what I think that's what we're talking about is
Yeah.
expression does take energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're coming to an end. I know that there's a lot to uncover even more because of the richness of what you offer. But I always like to open up the end here to let you listen into this now moment and see what it is that you'd like to leave the listeners with today.
Mm. This moment has a big rainfall that I'm hearing and seeing right outside my window. And it's been very dry. It's been a very dry summer here. And it just brings to mind what is possible, like even when we've had a very, very long dry spell of like not having a sense of possibility or hope or voice, that when we have the right support and we feel safe enough, that you can then express your voice and you can be visible in a way that when we don't feel safe, we just can't. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the word I'm taking with me today, because it seemed to thread through it all, is safe.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what I'd like to leave you, our listeners, with today is knowing that if you don't feel safe, there are opportunities to work with coaches. And I think that Heidi will have show notes and ways in which you can connect with her so that you can actually reset your nervous system. Thank you, Holly. Thank you so much.
Heidi.
Heidi.
Yes. Thank you so much, Doreen. So nice talking to you.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person Doreen interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.